Hi, everyone, and welcome to CEA 102, your students' health and safety abroad. We're excited to have you all here with us today. Um, a couple housekeeping items before you get started. Should you have any questions after or during this presentation, please submit them with the survey that accompanied your invitation email. Much like CEA 101, you will be able to ask 3 questions, and your questions will be addressed in a future live session. So I wanted to go ahead and introduce who we have presenting today. Some of these faces might be familiar if you attended CEA 101. First, we have myself, Alex Henderson, the Associate Academic Coordinator. Also with us, we have Elizabeth Gaither.
Hello, everyone. I'm your Director of Student Affairs, Health and Safety for CEA.
And last but not least, we have Christine Weiler.
Hi, everybody. I'm a site specialist.
So just going over the topics that we'll be touching on today, we'll be talking about transitioning your student to being abroad. We'll be talking about general health and wellness. We'll be talking about CISI health insurance, as well as your student safety, some tips for successful independent travel, and finally, CEA's emergency protocols. So go ahead and kick us off, Christine.
Hi, everybody. So the first thing that I wanted to touch base about was CEA Secure, which is essentially an optional program insurance that extends your student's withdrawal date for an additional fee. It does cover 2 big parts: family illness and death or job loss. So should one of these 2 things occur, unfortunately, either right before your student's program departs or while they're abroad, they would be eligible for either a full refund or a partial refund, depending on when they withdrew from their program. So if you'd like more information about this, I definitely recommend reaching out to your student site specialist. You can also find this information in their MyCEA account. It is a task on their to-do list.
Thank you, Christine. That's important information about CEA Secure, because we know things can happen that could impact a student's ability to go on their study abroad or have to return after it's begun. Another big question as your student leaves to go abroad may be not what they forgot, or whether their flight will be delayed, or whether it'll be on time, or even if they'll have enough money to accomplish all they want to do while they're abroad, but how your relationship with your student may change as they undergo this experience. Developmentally, this is a time in a young adult's life very much like when they first began to walk as a small child. They leaned on you for support to take their first tentative steps, and then as they gained strength and confidence, they began to take larger, faster, more independent steps away from you. However, inevitably, there would be a loss of balance, and the adventure in walking would end with a hard sit down or maybe a fall flat on their face. Maybe they even began with a run. In that same way that your small child looked around for you or cried out for you when that adventure to walking stopped, your young adult is more likely than not going to come back to you when there is a difficulty while they're abroad or when they need to be consoled. This is called the second rapprochement in student development, and it's a proven experience that we have with young adults as they grow and develop. The ability to support a young adult and balance their emotional needs with the important skills they need to learn to navigate on their own will be the biggest challenge for you as your student is studying abroad and so far away in a foreign place where people don't know their needs the way you do. Emotionally, this will be very stressful and challenging, for every parent has their own fears and knows their student's strengths and weaknesses better than anyone else. However, helping your student rely on their on-site staff as local experts and resources that are in the same time zone will be helpful to their personal growth and maturity and enable them to solve many of these problems and challenges on-site for themselves. It will also enable your relationship to move into the next phase of adulthood, where they are independent and resourceful problem solvers who share their experiences with you and appreciate your input and feedback on their life, as opposed to you solving their problems for them. I want to talk a little bit about your students' health and wellness abroad, because CEA does have a commitment to health and wellness for your son or daughter as they're preparing to go abroad. It's important to reflect on their overall health so they can be successful. If they're coming off a stressful or hectic semester or have been fighting allergies before they depart, It's critical they take time to eat well, watch how much caffeine they're drinking, and catch up on sleep before undertaking that international journey. If your student is starting this experience feeling unwell or tired, unrested, it's going to be difficult for them to get up to speed after arrival as they work through jet lag. Check out the CDC website for any immunizations that are recommended for your student's host country or the countries they hope to visit. Getting the typical college-age boosters for meningitis and MMR or tetanus are also a very good idea at this point.
These are all super important notes, Liz. Thanks for sharing that. It is also worth noting that in mosquito-prone climates, students will want to be sure to pack an insect repellent with DEET, which is the only repellent to work in Zika-prone climates. These repellents can be expensive on location, so bringing them is advised. Additionally, jet lag is real, and it can take about a week or so for a person to adjust. Settling into a routine and pacing themselves will help them transition to life in their new location. They don't have to see everything in the first week. Students will be doing more walking than they're generally accustomed to, and that is one way they can count on staying fit. Their CEA on-site staff will also have fitness activities, hikes and biking excursions, and recommendations for fitness classes, yoga, or gyms for the students who are interested.
Thank you, Christine. It's important to know that all students will adapt at their own speed, and you will likely hear and see their progress through the various stages of cultural adaptation as they share about things online or in calls that are exciting and new, frustrating and different, that they're missing in the US, or as they make plans to return and travel more. Your positive reinforcement of all aspects of their experience will help them understand it's all important and they are making memories of a lifetime as they learn to navigate this experience.
There's also a great resource for cultural adaptation on your student's MyCEA account. After your student arrives, encourage them to talk with the CEA staff at their study locations to help understand their feelings and feel supported. The on-site CEA staff have years of experience supporting students, and they're going to be the best people for your student to connect with if they're not feeling well. They completely understand the challenges of the transition to being abroad.
So now I'd like to talk a little bit about CISI health insurance. All students studying with CEA have health insurance through CISI during their program dates. CISI stands for Cultural Insurance Services International. It's a large, well-known insurance provider that works with many universities and international providers, business and student education programs. Students are not covered by CISI outside their study program dates. So if your student chooses to arrive before their program start date or travel after their program ends, they will not have health insurance coverage through CEA. I strongly advise finding a short-term travel plan, which is easy to find online. We often direct people to sevencorners.com for those times when they are not in their CEA program. Again, your student is only covered by CISI during the states of their CEA study program. So CISI is a reimbursement style plan where students do pay up front for their visit or services for a doctor or a clinic, and then will file a claim to get their money back. Upfront costs abroad are fairly reasonable due to socialized medicine, usually 60 to 80 euros for an office visit, less for a nurse practitioner or at a clinic, more if they need to see a specialist. CEA staff can help students make appointments and answer questions about completing the claim forms. However, HIPAA rules prevent CEA from submitting claims or intervening directly when a claim is denied. Reimbursements can take up to 6 weeks and will be sent to the student's permanent address. So please check with your student what they have listed as their permanent address. So if those funds are needed to be deposited into an account, you will receive that check. Be sure your student has their CISI insurance card, as they will need the number to file claims. But unlike in the US, they do not have to show an insurance card for appointments or to receive service. With socialized medicine, they can walk in and ask to be seen and then pay out of pocket. Pre-existing conditions that are diagnosed by a medical doctor are covered. So your student is currently receiving treatment or therapy, they can continue care with a reimbursement of those services up to $2,500. After that, they'll have to pay for service out of their own pocket. Students need to bring all the medication they will need while they're abroad, and we can assist with providing letters to help secure prescriptions for the duration of a program in the cases of some controlled medications that are available on limited prescriptions of 30 or 60 days. If a medication is lost or forgotten, we can assist students with securing a replacement, but as brand names and country laws are different, not all medications may be available or in the same formulation. Because students are paying upfront for services, which could include even x-rays or lab work in some cases, be sure your student has funds set aside for healthcare costs. A designated credit card is a good idea. Students will often put off going to the doctor if they think the out-of-pocket cost is going to hinder their other activities like going out with their friends or traveling. Filing any claims promptly with all the documentation and receipts will help those monies be reimbursed within that time frame of 6 to 8 weeks. And again, checks are going to be sent to the student's permanent address. Only when a student is admitted to a hospital will CISI, working with their emergency provider, AXA, cover expenses upfront. Otherwise, a student is expected to pay out of pocket first and then file a claim for reimbursement.
So no matter the information you or your student may have done about their study location already, maybe don't miss this photo opportunity or restaurant recommendation, doing some additional research is a really good idea. Checking out the blogs of other CEA students currently studying at that location can be an excellent resource in helping your students prepare for their study abroad or internship venture. Expat newspapers are another great option, as many international cities have them in English, and they discuss current issues and life in that place through the eyes of Americans. You'll want to sign both you and your student up for the U.S. State Department's Smart Traveler Enrollment Program. This provides you updates according to the countries you indicate as part of your student's travel plan. This also notifies the local embassy of your student's presence in their host country in the event they need to be relocated or evacuated. Arrival orientations are mandatory. Our CEA mandatory orientation gives students important information about safety, so we encourage you to talk to your student about attending and then following up with them after to see what they heard and remember.
Thank you, Christine. I'm a firm believer in pre-departure research to help get a student more prepared when they're traveling abroad. Now, along with that pre-departure research about the country, pre-departure research about the nightlife is also important. We understand that alcohol is part of the U.S. college experience, and for students studying abroad, it can be an exciting part of the new social scene. Even if your student hasn't used alcohol before, the attraction of going out in a new place may have them drinking with their friends. Or it may become part of their life as they adapt to a culture that enjoys wine or has special traditions involving alcohol. However, being uninformed about the laws and the customs is not an excuse for misbehavior. Student misuse or abuse can set a student up to be a victim also of petty crime, like having their phone or their wallet stolen, or even more serious crimes like assault. Students are not aware of how easy a target they present when going to the clubs that cater to students and tourists in the most popular areas of town. Criminals know these areas and look for students who are alone or under the influence while in these clubs and when they leave. Please talk to your student about their alcohol use and expect if they haven't used alcohol before, they may use alcohol while they're abroad and how they can keep themselves safe.
CEA has been made aware of scams targeting students and their families. Students should guard their private information while abroad just like they would at home in the US. And if you or a family member are ever contacted that your student is in trouble or being detained in a foreign country, please contact your student or CEA to confirm your student is safe before sending any money. For example, we were made aware of a grandmother who was targeted after her grandson's Facebook and email were hacked, and the scammers found family information and his travel plans. The scammers told her they were from the US Embassy and needed $10,000 to get her grandson out of Morocco because he was detained there. While this is not common, we want you to be aware and prepared if you are contacted in such a way.
Lastly, if your student ever shares with you that they've been a victim of any crime, please direct them to the CEA staff so they can receive support and assistance to file a police report. This reporting can be time-consuming and may not be what the student wants to do, but your encouragement will also help them see the value in standing up for themselves and alerting authorities to the crimes that are taking place to a specific area or targeting students. Students should also report any crimes or problems they experience to the U.S. consulate. CEA does not provide personal property insurance or contact the consulate on behalf of students. So please do consider insuring computers or cameras or knowing the U.S. consulate number. Students should also not bring valuable jewelry or heirloom items that cannot be easily replaced. Students should always secure their doors and windows when leaving their apartments or their homestays and use the deadbolts provided in their housing. They need to respect their homestay families and their housing arrangement if that is the case, and never bring home strangers or leave doors or windows unlocked. At CEA, we are very aware of the challenges of the times and the risks to all of us here in the U.S. and abroad. I want to share with you the student emergency protocol that all students are told on site and is repeated to them before any sponsored excursions or when they choose to travel independently. In the event of an emergency, they are told to stay where they are or get to a safe place if their location is threatened. Contact their family and emergency contact first, then respond to any CEA communications. And lastly, follow the directions of local authorities that may contact them.
CEA may reach out to a student's emergency contact to help us determine where they are. Your help in providing information about your student's location and safety is a valuable part of our partnership, as we know you should be the first person they contact. You provide a fallback contact for CEA in case, because of self-service or other issues, CEA cannot reach them. We advise you to always follow up on any international events with the U.S. State Department. It is critical that students have a working cell phone, as we've mentioned previously, that's not dependent on Wi-Fi in order to be contacted in the event of an emergency. We also will be sharing our U.S. emergency phone number. As you can see on the screen, it is 1-800-266-4441. Again, that phone number is 1-800-266-4441.
I also want to mention the CEA travel survey, which students fill out weekly to help their on-site staff understand where they are traveling independently. This is important information, so as we become aware of incidents or situations in other countries, we understand which students may be impacted due to their travel to those locations or flights or buses that are routed through those locations. Please encourage your students to always complete the travel survey and to keep CEA staff on site informed as to where they are traveling. You should also keep track of where your student is traveling so that should we need to reach out to you, we'll have an understanding if their travel plans changed from those they submitted on the survey or if they decided to go out of town at the last minute. Again, the CEA travel survey is a critical part of us understanding your students' whereabouts in the event of an emergency.
Well, thank you, Liz, and thank you, Christine. I know that's a lot of information to take in and a lot of things to consider as your student gets ready to study abroad, but I just want to very quickly review some of the information that was shared today. Remember for students to take care of themselves and start healthy. Make sure they have dedicated funds for any healthcare that they might need while on site. And remember that our CEA on-site staff are there to help, and they should be the first person students go to for their concerns on site as they are in their city and in the same time zone. Help your students manage their risk by encouraging them to use alcohol responsibly if they drink, and to always complete the CEA travel survey when they travel independently. And finally, remember the CEA emergency protocols. to get to a safe place or shelter in the place that they are. Call their emergency contact, respond to all CEA communications, and most importantly, to follow the directions of the local authorities. So that's going to do it for our presentation today of CEA 102, Your Students' Health and Safety Abroad. Please remember to submit your questions, up to 3 of them, in the survey that was sent out with this presentation, and we're very excited to answer your questions at CEA 102 Live shortly here in the future. So that's going to wrap it up for us. For all of us here at CEA, thank you for joining us. Have a great day. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Thanks, everybody.